this happened again. And I was like, I can't move. I started hosting the events that I wanted to go personally. My first event was US first offshore vocal event.
Oh, wow.
I just make it happen somehow.
But you're like an otaku Elon Musk.
Hey, podcast kittens. It's Cathy Cat
And Ladybeard coming at you with another Been Told to Talk More Quietly installment of
Cat with Beard.
We have a super special guest in the studio today. Hey, my friend.
Hi. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Risa. I teach Japanese slang on Instagram as Risa's Nihongo. So if you're interested in learning the Japanese slang that you cannot find in your textbook, please find Risa Light on Instagram.
Risa is my buddy. And we first met in my first show ever in the United States back in 2015.
In LA?
Yeah, in LA.
Oh wow, that's like 9 years ago?
Yes.
Oh my god, time flies.
Yeah, sure does. So we've been mates for 10 flipping years. And this lady has become one of my staunchest supporters in the United States. So thank you for all your help, my friend.
Of course. Anything for Bia-chan.
Bless you. Thank you, sweetheart. What a legend.
I'm like so left out right now.
I'm so sorry.
Cathy Cat is my podcast host in Japan. She's one of my staunchest supporters in Japan. What a legend. And I used to have a meeting for the first time.
No, I was going to say there's much more to Risa as well. You're also an MC, a translator, a content creator, but also a event maker. There's a lot more there as well. So I'm curious to find out more about Risa today.
We will hear the whole history of the one and only Risa Light. So tell us about yourself. You're from Japan, but
Yes.
you're now US based, yes?
Yes.
Tell us that saga and how that all happened.
Yeah, so right now I'm living in LA. Originally, I moved...
You're living in LA? I thought
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you from LA?
No.
Like, have you ever been to LA before?
No. I thought you're like around the area, so I thought you were living here in Japan. So
Yeah, I've been
living in LA right now.
I've been living in LA for a while now. Like, originally I went to the US because I wanted to study English.
Is that why you went to the US? I didn't know that.
To study English as an international student.
So that's why you're also like, okay, now I know how to teach it as well. The students are sometimes the best teachers because they experience it.
Yeah, and also like I used to work as a cram school teacher to teach English for middle school students, like
Oh, right.
10th grade for the high school entrance exam. So I used to teach English to Japanese students
So hold on. Where does your story start? You were born and raised in
here
Japan.
in Japan.
Tokyo?
Yes, Chiba.
Chiba.
Yes.
Okay. And you were here in Japan until you were...
Until I was like, the age-wise or?
Yeah.
I was like 19.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you're like, I want to learn English.
Yeah. I mean, I've been wanting to study English. So I was like, maybe after high school, I'm going to go to, community college or university in the US. And that's how it happened.
I see. All right. So you went straight to LA, yeah?
Well, originally, first it was San Diego.
Oh, San Diego.
Yeah. But
That's
I'm like,
nice,
close.
Yeah, sure. In the
SoCal, yeah.
Yeah, I see. Okay, sweet. So you went to language school.
College.
College.
Because I already had my TOEFL scores. I was able to directly start college.
As a native speaker of English, I don't know what the process is for a non-native speaker. So I don't know what that means. What's that mean?
Do you know like SAT scores?
Yeah.
That's like American system. Like,
Yep.
like it's kind of similar to SAT, but like it's like specifically for the international students.
Nice.
So like you have to have specific scores from TOEFL to enter this school.
I see.
And I was already taking TOEFLs like when I was at high school, so I already had my scores. So I was like, I can go to college with my score.
see. I hear a lot about the TOEFL, but I never knew what it was.
Yeah. I think I got some sort of TOEFL.
TOEFL, it's a full
There's TOEFL and there's the
toe.
TEFL as well. It's TOEFL and TEFL, and they're like different in like how difficult they are. But so hold on, till 19 you are in Japan, and then you went to the US for how long?
Over 10 years.
Okay, cool. Sweet ass.
Yeah.
And then you decided to. At which point in time did you just start with all the cool stuff?
Yeah, exactly. When did the Risa we know now, when did that spawn itself?
Well, because I was already into anime before I went to the US. Like, I always liked, anime when I was growing up, like childhood anime. I liked Evangelion and stuff. But then I met this anime called the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Like 2006-ish. That's how I got into anime for like more like a otaku.
Like a
anime.
fan, actually.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Risa does not have a very otaku appearance, does she? She has like a badass type appearance, yet just a super otaku as it turns out.
Yeah. I was like a pretty hardcore otaku, like anime otaku for a while.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what were you doing while you were a pretty hard otaku?
Yeah, so like after I got into Haruhi, like anime was the only thing that I would have watched for the past 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Because I don't watch drama, movies, sports, nothing. I just watch anime every day. That's the only thing that I
You're
watch
living the weeb dream, okay.
for 15 years.
And that was in America then? When did you experience
since
Haruhi?
before I was here. Yeah.
So from childhood, you were watching anime every day. God, that is, well, you must have a deep knowledge. You're a deep otaku. Wow.
Yeah, but then like, you know, like I was like also like checking Twitter, like checking what's happening in Japan. And in Japan there are so many cool events for like, you know, anime otakus and cosplayers. But then I was like, in LA, we have only anime conventions. And anime conventions is usually like a full day or whole weekend thing. It's expensive. It's like a big thing, you know? But then I just wanted to go to more like a smaller events casually. But then it didn't exist in LA. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to start hosting that. And that's how I started.
So you decided the world needs this, I will make it.
Yeah, I
That's
just
awesome.
started hosting the events that I wanted to go personally. Because they didn't exist in LA.
So you saw like a lack of events and then you decided to launch them yourself. A, that must have been really hard. B, what were they called?
The name of the events? It's always different. I had like a seasonal events. Like for example, if it's summertime, it's Ota Summer.
Yeah.
If it's like Valentine, it was Ota Choco. If it's like winter time, it was like Ota Christmas. So I had all the seasonal events.
Ota Choco, kawaii.
Ota Choco for
That's
Valentine.
my favorite so far.
Kawaii.
Yes, I had all the seasonal events, and on top of that, I had like a iFest, like idol festival.
Oh, okay.
So pick the LA's number one idol, because that's when I was into like Love Live, Idol Master, or the
So you
idol.
became an idol otaku as well. Huh? You became an idol otaku as well.
Yeah, but like anime idol,
I see.
like
So
Love Live,
and all that.
Idol Master, Wake Up Girls,
I see.
you know, Macross, all kind of stuff.
I see. Okay, cool.
So
Yeah.
what is Cherry Jelly Productions then?
So Cherry Cherry Productions, I recently started that because I wanted to spread Japanese culture, like Japanese pop culture over LA. And it didn't have to be event, but like when I thought about like, oh, what should I do to spread Japanese pop culture over LA? I was like, should I make magazines or like should I host events? Like what should I do? And I was thinking and I was like, oh, maybe events might be the best because I can actually meet all the people and then like directly talk to them about it. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe I'm just going to start hosting events at Cherry Jelly Productions. But like it didn't have to be only events.
I see.
Yeah.
So was that so you started making your own events, were they under the label Cherry Jelly Productions? I don't quite understand. Like, I can't follow.
Yes, so Cherry Cherry Productions originally it started as a NPO, so like non-profit organizations, but now it's a company.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So
So that's still continuing now?
Yeah, that's my company name now.
So it started first of your own passion of like, there is not enough anime events here.
Yeah.
And you did that. And then after a while, decided, I make an NPO. Oh, okay.
But can I ask something, Risa? This would have been happening around, what, the 2010 sort of era, something like that?
My first event was 2011.
Okay, so around that time. So you say in Japan there were all these awesome events for, you know, cosplayers and anime and so forth. Then you didn't have that in LA, so you wanted to bring that to LA. So what were you experiencing in Japan that you were then missing in America at the start?
Like all the small events that people can go casually without spending tons of money. It's just like a one-night event. It's like 2 hours, 3 hours events. And our event ticket was usually like $5, $10. It's like very simple and casual.
Right.
And then we also casted all the cosplayers, performers for the event. So everyone had a chance to stand on the stage, to shine, you know, to show off their cosplay, you know, their performance and such, so that I can contribute to this anime community in LA.
Right, so comparatively, when a convention is this large event with vendors and food
Yeah,
stalls
it's like
and
a
kind of
whole
thing,
different event.
you organize much
Smaller,
smaller kind of events.
yeah.
What venues were you using for these events?
My first event was at Royalty Cafe. That was like a maid cafe,
I see.
but more like a gallery cafe. That's where Kyary Pami had the first US performance too. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but then they
Okay.
closed down. So I had to find a new venue. And that's when I met Anime Jungle, which was like
That's where we met.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
where we met too. That's like the biggest anime toy store in Japan. And it's originally from Osaka. And you can find Anime Jungle in Akihabara, Radio Kaikan, Radio Kaikan. And they have another individual stores somewhere in Akihabara too. So it's like a big anime or tokusatsu toy store companies from Osaka.
Right. And
You're
then they
losing me
opened a
again.
shop in LA.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
in
what I was
Little
going to say.
Tokyo.
How does that one make it to LA?
Yeah, so it's in Little Tokyo, and then like that's when they wanted to renew the whole shop. So they expanded the shop. So that's why they were like, oh, maybe like, after the construction, it gets bigger, we have more space, so we can have the events together. And then my first event with Anime Jungle was the US first ever offshore Vocaloid event.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Vocaloid.
Yeah,
So Miku Hatsune and such.
Hatsune Miku. Because I was like, oh, I want to host Vocaloid event. And at that time, I was still a student, and I shamelessly contacted Krypton, which is the Hatsune Miku's company, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking to plan this event. And I sent them like all the event proposal and everything, and I asked them if they can sponsor my event. And then they responded and said yes.
Wow. That kind of, what's the word? Gumption?
Tenacity.
Yeah, you just went like, let's try, and you
I
did.
gotta say, all the stories so far, I'm very impressed with your tenacity.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
impressive. Because most people say, I want this thing. I won't do it. You know,
Yeah,
you actually said, I want this
yeah.
thing. I'll just do it.
I just make it happen
Yeah.
somehow.
Message them,
Somehow.
Impressive, man. That's, hey, you're like an otaku Elon Musk.
Oh, man.
Otaku Elon.
Otaku hero. That's funny.
I think that just you put things straight into action if you want them to do, and you're also using your love and passion for subculture, and you're like, I like Vocaloid, let's make a Vocaloid event.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so they promoted our event on their, offshore Twitter, and they sent us all the goodies from Japan and such. So like it kind of became a big thing. So many people drove all the way from like out of state, making a huge line to get into the event. So that was like a big success.
That's
Wow.
from out of state.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
That
That's
was the first event with Anime Jungle. So Anime Jungle loved me. They were like, oh, we should keep doing that. And that's how we started hosting events regularly, like 3 or 4 times a year.
So, but it must also be a different experience doing these events when you have a Japanese okyakusan, Japanese
Guest?
audience versus American audience, right?
Oh, but like I never really hosted events in Japan in Japanese.
Sure, but as in when you went as a patron yourself, and then like comparatively, Japanese patrons and American patrons would be two totally different things. Yeah, you're trying to create the same event in these two different environments. So how did you find that comparison between the environment in Japan versus the environment in America?
So originally, the events that I really wanted to go when I was in LA was like Macross Night. It's more like a anison club nights. Like they're playing, all the specific anime themed songs and then like cosplay and then dance, that kind of stuff. But somehow I didn't do the DJ event at the beginning, so I just switched to the cosplay event, like the Vocaloid or even before that. And other events were the Ota Choco, Ota Summer, Ota Christmas. It was mainly like a cosplay events to show off the beauty and the craft of cosplay. Because like Little Tokyo is like a popular city for many cosplayers or anyone who loves Japan or anime culture. So there are many cosplayers coming to Little Tokyo just to have fun, take pictures and hang out with the friends. And then I heard that like some local, like Japanese American stores and restaurants, sometimes they are like, oh, like those weird cosplayers again. Like they don't have a good impression
Really?
towards cosplayers.
Surprising,
So I
yeah.
wanted to show those local people first that the beauty of cosplay, cosplay can be art. That's how I started in Little Tokyo. So I even did the like a Nisei Week parade, which is like a historical big parade thing that happens every summer in Little Tokyo to show the whole Little Tokyo community. This is cosplay.
You made that. You produced a cosplay parade.
Not the cosplay parades. They do have the Nisei Week parade every year
I'm sorry.
with a long history. But I just
sorry, okay.
happened to join them
I see.
for cosplay part.
And you were a cosplayer yourself.
Yes. Used to.
Used to cosplay.
So when you were doing the events, were you cosplaying at the events?
Yes, as MC, I was also cosplaying.
So you were leading from the helm. All right, so you're cosplaying and you're MCing.
Yes.
That's amazing. Can I? Sorry.
I feel like I'm sitting behind a mountain right now going like, can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Dozo!
Like I've arranged a convention in my university in Chester before, and just like having arranged like a mini convention, like it was just a 1-day convention, knowing how hard it is to pull together people, resources, events, like even just arranging like a cosplay parade or maids to come and dance is very hard. So what were like the challenges to make that happen for you?
Yeah, it is very hard because I was doing everything by myself. Like Anime Jungle was my partner, but they are not really organizing the event programs or anything. They are more like more like a securities, more like the staff-wise. They organize the staff to make the event happen. But for the content-wise, everything was by me. So like, coming up with the concept and like what program to do. Like sometimes I do fashion show performance, sometimes I do quiz show, cosplay contest, and finding sponsors, casting everyone, finding all the music for each performer, like everything was by myself. And I was also an MC. So before the event, I was always pulling like all-nighter.
Wow.
Because everything was like always last minute. So it was like a lot of work.
Of course. Tremendous amount of work. By the way, if anyone doesn't know, working in live events is like the most stressful and high intensity job you can ever imagine.
I mean, like seriously, just like getting everyone on board with that, that's such a hard job. So how did you also at the time, you said you started as a student, so you had the time, but once you're actually working, how did you keep the time aside to create these events?
I don't know how I was doing that, to be honest.
Spirit and youth.
Yeah. Because when I hosted one event, this media company came to, check out our event, and they liked me. They're like, hey, do you want to work at my company? And I was like, I need visa. And they're like, I'm going to sponsor you. So I got the job through my event.
Wait,
but then
through your
was
passion.
But it was for like a magazine, like an English magazine to introduce the Japanese culture to American people. But then the work was taking up my whole life. I was like mentally, physically drained all the time. I was like, I had no time. And I was like, if I don't have time to organize events or to do anything that I love, what's the point of me staying in the US? So like during that time, I was like, I want to keep going with all the events and everything, but I was like, I just don't have time. So I don't know how I was doing that, to be honest, during those years. But like, I think I was still hosting like 3 events minimum a year.
Still a lot. How did you, and then what changed after that?
I quit.
Okay, and then that's a big one. That will change a change.
So I had more time, but then like I kind of started losing interest in cosplay. And as I mentioned earlier, I host events that I personally want to go. And since I wasn't interested in cosplay anymore, I kind of stopped hosting events. Because I was like, I wasn't like super into cosplay anymore as I used to. But then after that, I got into Anikura scene. Have you ever heard of Anikura? Yes, so anime
like
clubs. Yes. Okay. So in the US, we have like an anime rave. So when you go to conventions, there's like always like a DJ night, rave. But that wasn't the events that I wanted to do. I wanted to do Anikura specifically. And Anikura is usually like, it depends on the scene, but usually like original songs. Sometimes people use remix, but usually original. So that's the attendees. They can do all kinds of otage. So everyone brings the light sticks. They mix with all the specific otage moves. That's Anikura. So that's what I want to do next. So I started hosting Anikura. So like whatever that interests me, like, okay, I'm going to start doing this because it doesn't exist. So that's what I've been keep doing.
But
that's a cultural thing that might not have been so known. So how did you get that culture into
I imagine there'd be a small group of otakus at this era, in this era. A small group of Japanese people in the US and otakus who were super into it and really understand, and then a sea of other people just confused.
Yeah, it's a very niche kind of area.
is.
So how did you
It
introduce
is.
that?
So on our social media, I was like kind of educating people
Okay.
what anikura is.
Okay.
It's not like a rave or other clubbing events. It's very different. They have all the specific dance moves for each song.
do.
Like dance or otage moves.
specific.
Yeah. It's very different,
Very
you know.
specific.
But I feel like now otage is more known thanks to Oshinoko.
No.
Because like all the, you know, the Aqua and Ruby, the baby verse,
The
you know, doing the
babies, yeah.
otage moves, and then
Otage
they're like
dance.
more people are aware of otage now. Yeah, but then pandemic happened, so I was able to host only 2 Anikura events, and then during pandemic, I was still streaming Anikura online. But then I started losing interest in Anikura
really?
again.
Oh, okay.
So after the pandemic is over, I'm not doing events anymore.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, so you're right now. You're not doing it anymore.
No, not anymore.
But you're focusing more on teaching Japanese instead.
Yeah, and I'm seeing.
Okay, so you said emceeing. So you emceed at like big events like Anime Expo, San Diego Comic Con. How was that?
Oh, it's so much fun. Like, you know, it's fun to see all the attendees, like, looking so excited. They're, like, so happy to be here to hear, you know, what the guests were doing. So, yeah, that makes me happy, and it's very exciting. And I feel like I genuinely enjoy hosting or emceeing
So
the
it kind of-
panels and events.
So you moved from my own events to more my own events, but in a different style to everyone, big events, something like joining the big events kind of thing. Is that
but
correct?
I was also doing MC at the same time as hosting the events at the same time together.
You're busy. How did you do all of that?
By the way, this whole story is like an entrepreneurial dream, isn't it? I wanted to learn English, so I did in America. Then they just gave me a green card, do this thing, and then I wanted to do a cosplay, so I did. And I got bored and I stopped. I wanted to write I got bored and I stopped. That's amazing, isn't it? At no point is there
I feel like
obligation
a
or
selfish
things I didn't want to
person
do. Well, it's freaking
doing
great,
only
man.
the things that
mean,
I like.
Yeah, but I think you're living an otaku dream. It's amazing.
I am.
It's remarkable.
Living my otaku life.
Good.
So when you MC now, you MC for panels and whatnot at conventions for some of the biggest artists in Japan when they appear in the United States. You've done JO1, you've done these other huge artists, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
How is that?
To me, like, whoever the guest is, it's always the same. Because, like, you know, whatever I'm supposed to do, it's always, you know, doesn't
Good.
change.
Okay, good. No,
Yeah.
not getting nervous with the big guests.
Not so much. Yeah, I feel like I'm used to it now.
It's a good MC. You're facilitating communication between these two. It's good
Thank
MC.
you.
It's good MC.
Yeah.
So you also then translate in the panel. So you host the panel and you translate it at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes, depends on the panel. Sometimes I'm just only a MC. Sometimes I'm only a translator. Sometimes I'm like a bilingual MC. So I'm supposed to MC and translate what the guests say at the same time, which is very confusing because I'm like speaking English and Japanese. like
that sounds
switch.
hard.
And do you also find it hard to switch communication styles? Because I would imagine with this bunch of pop stars you communicate with in Japanese, you'd have to be very formal and very kind of polite about everything. And then with a bunch of screaming otakus, you'd have to be like, put your hands up! So there'd be this constant like rail switching that your brain has to do.
But I feel like the type of the events that I usually MC for is very casual because it's always like at, you know, anime conventions or some kind of events. It's never formal. So it's, well, so whether it's Japanese or English, I feel like I just keep it very frank, casual, and
Really?
friendly.
And that's fine with super major level artists. Like they're cool to just chill out and chat.
Yeah.
You're not restricted in kind of, all right, the company says to you and says, you can't talk about any of these things and you have to treat everyone like this. And,
Yeah, some of them are strict, but like as long as I'm following the rules,
okay,
it's
then all
fine.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
All right. What kind of panels or like do you have like had the most fun or like legendary some kind of panel or hosting you've done and you're like, oh, I still remember that?
I don't know. I just enjoy any kinds of events and panels. I mean, like, you know, I have worked with Bia Jan
that was
before
awesome. Thank you.
in
That was
LA, and I was
wonderful.
like MC for him. But that was so much fun too.
That was great
I mean,
fun.
like, he understands both Japanese and English, anyways.
Yeah, my Japanese was terrible at the time, though. I remember one point I tried to translate for one of the girls, and straight after I finished speaking, I said to myself, I got a feeling I just embarrassed myself in front of Risa. That wasn't what was said.
No, you're good. You're
bless
perfect.
you.
Perfect kawaii idol.
Oh, you got that. Wow, bless you, sweetheart.
So You moved from own events to big events. How did the pandemic change your life in that way?
So like, as I mentioned earlier, CJP, Cherry Jelly, used to be an NPO, but then like decided to make it a business because like I was getting more gigs. So I needed to create like, my business, bank account, credit card, that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make it a company. And when I finished the process and then when I got approved, that was like at the end of February 2020. So that was like right before the pandemic.
Oh, no.
And all the events got canceled, as everyone knows. No. And my main income was coming from the events. And I was like, oh no, I made a company and all the events are canceled.
Risk.
Oh, dear.
Risk.
Yes,
What
I was
did
like,
you do?
what should I do? So when the pandemic happened, that's when I also started Research Nihongo. Because I was like, what can I do, like during the lockdown, because I can't go anywhere, like everyone's going to be stuck at home and we don't know how long this is going to last. Like no one knew what was going on, to be honest. So I was like, oh, if it's like a Japanese conversation cafe, Zoom online session thing, like anyone can do it from anywhere in the world at home. So I was like, okay, so maybe I'm going to start doing that. But to do that, I had to build my community. First. So that's how I started Instagram.
I thought you might already have had a community, so many people came to your events, in a way.
So how did community build? Once you started Risa's Nihongo, I was amazed. I looked at her account one day and it's on like, 25,000 followers or something. And I'm like, awesome, good job, Risa. I can go off, do something else, come back, 250,000. Wait just a second now. How did you 10x that in like 10 days? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know how
It's
that
amazing.
happened.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Instagram's algorithm, I would say.
Also, you make great videos. This is the other thing, because we're going to talk about it in
the
its
next
entirety in the
episode,
next episode. Because you're teaching Japanese slang, and that's something that's really hard to learn unless you're living in Japan and hanging out with a bunch of people in an izakaya every night. So
Izakaya.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to hone down on Risa's Nihongo in the next episode.
Good plan.
Yeah,
All right.
sounds like a plan. Is there anything else about hosting MC or events that you would like us to know in case we want to host a Cat with Beard event sometime?
Or any
What would be
advice
an
to the
advice?
viewers who want to, take a leaf out of your book and they say, here's the thing I want to do. And no one's
Anyone who
doing it.
wants to start another event, maybe in their own town somewhere abroad?
Like when I used to host the cosplay events, I had a goal, like maybe someday in the future I want to host this kind of convention or events, but then now I'm losing interest in cosplay. That dream is gone. So as for now, I don't have any specific goal as for hosting events and such, but my goal is always like to spread Japanese pop culture over LA. That hasn't changed since day zero.
Great.
So I guess that's what I'm gonna be sticking with.
Any advice you would give to someone who wants to host an event? Like, don't go crazy with like people's demands last minute, or you said you didn't sleep the last nights before.
Yeah.
So what would be a piece of advice for someone who wants to host an anime event abroad?
Yeah, so if you're interested in hosting events, first try to help out someone else's event so that you can learn how to do that. And you do need basic knowledge about hosting events and connections, to be honest. Like you have to know the right person to get the help from. Like, for
Right,
example, I needed sponsors for my cosplay contest. I needed someone who has the venue, and I had to know the cosplayers to, cast the cosplayers for my event. And I had to find someone to reach out to tell everyone that, hey, this event is happening. So I had to know all kinds of right people. So I think starting your own events is great, but first you have to start from the basic. You can't just do it right away without knowing the right people, I think.
And for live events, you probably need to develop a stress tolerance too, don't you? It's such a high stress job.
Yeah, it
it's
was very
remarkable.
stressful.
Yeah.
And my legs were always had cramps right after the event. Yeah, because
so
I think my
much
muscle was
stress.
so tense.
Tense the entire
Every
time.
event at Anime Jungle, I was my legs, this happened again. And I was I can't move. I can't move.
Wow, so make sure you allocate physio your budget. Post-con physio. Goodness gracious me.
I think during the event I was fine because my
Adrenaline,
adrenaline
yeah.
focused.
going
of course.
through my head, my body, so it's fine. But as soon as it's over, it's always I had something
Yeah.
with my body.
Oh, really?
Holy moly. Well, we're going to find out more about how you teach Japanese in the next episode of the podcast. Where can we exactly, you want to
Tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Yes, find me at Risa Light. RISALIGHT, Risa Light on Instagram. Follow お願いします。
And specifically Risa, not Lisa. Don't get confused.
RISA.
Yeah, that's the Thai member of Blackpink. This is Risa Light. Don't confuse them.
All right.
Risa, not Lisa.
Exactly. The Japanese is the same consonant, so
I
let's
know it
just
is.
clear that up. All right, and so we'll see you very soon to discuss Risa's Nihongo on the next installment of
Cat with beard.
Goodbye.